All right, welcome, folks. Mil Spec Opsman here. Listen, it's going to be 11 a.m. Central Time coming to you from the great state of Texas. It is 8/22/22, and a quick shout out to my little brother. Happy birthday, my man! Man, what a crazy ride it has been, and wish you the best. And as always, blessings going forward, my man. So, all right, let's hop on over here. We're going to jump into Skyglass right out of the gate. Got a couple interesting items we're watching. You got this little four ship. As you can see, these things are racked and stacked together. Looks like they are headed up the East Coast. So it's a four ship of tankers, air refuelers. So we'll see what they've got going on, but I don't see them rolling high and tight like that too often. But we back it up. Got an R135 coming in from across the drink. And mill aircraft wise, we are actually showing, which is a pretty high number, 546 mil aircraft up, and then we're actually showing on our list right over here about 517. Total last load was 14,000. That includes commercial, mast, everything all combined and together. But it's a pretty active Monday morning, given that we've got a pretty big washout here in Texas for once. It is raining cats and dogs. So, highest numbers we're seeing up. We've got over 100 trainers, probably about 110 trainers. These Tex 2s that you see up here at the top of the list, there's 93 of those. Those are going to be little training aircraft. And then these little T-38s also. You got 22 of those up. But we'll come back to that. Let's get over here to our watch list real fast, see what's going on around the U.S. and the rest of the world as we get into it. You'll see we've got a lot of Customs and Border Patrol up right now, down along that southern border. San Diego, down into Arizona. And then we've got our Guardians up. Those are going to be those mill intel balloons that are spying on us 24/7. And we got this one, which, get your head around that. This bad dude is headed straight up north. It is one of the blue and whites, man. It's one of the presidential birds. SAM 785 looks to be headed up to Greenland. Imagine that. Don't see that too often. A couple E6s up too. Those are going to be your airborne commands, right? And then of course always our sub hunters are launched out of Jackson Naval Air Station. And then this little N312FU, you guys may remember, that's the Maxwell bird, and that's showing on our screen right now. But let's get over here to Europe, see what we've got going on. It is kind of light in terms of our watch list now, but we do have interesting ones. That's a spy bird up over Latvia and Lithuania. We've got a B-52 rolling out. Looks like he just ran the circuit all the way down southern side of Europe, right up to the Black Sea, and then punched back in. He's over Hungary right now, it looks like, in general, maybe even Croatia. That C-135, although it shows a air refueler, it is not. C-135 is going to be a nuke sniffer that looks to be running some routes over France, which is an interesting deal. And then we've got this one. Notice that tight circle, man, in the middle. So what that aircraft is probably doing is actually becoming the cell tower over the North Sea. So if there are any cargo ships or anything out there, it's doing a data collection. So that's exactly what's going on there. And then we get into the air refuelers. Of course, we do have that R135 over the Black Sea. That, again, is out doing a battlefield assessment, looking at whatever's moving. Don't see any Q4s, which is interesting. But here's your air refuelers, very light. But notice we got this cell starting out right here, taking off out of Central Texas. And then there's that four ship headed up the East Coast. We'll see where that ends up going. Now, don't forget, Flashbang is up on the East Coast right now, too. So maybe they're throwing some more fighters up over him or something. Maybe there's something going on we're not aware of. But we'll continue to watch those. Always interesting, like I said, to see those going on. Okay, let's get into the news as we kind of break it out. Now we're going to start out looking at the volcanic activity. Now remember the other day I mentioned there was a solar flare that was headed our way. Anytime that happens, we see an uptick in earthquakes and in volcanic activity, usually around the time, not always directly on the hit, but before and after it. And so this is no different. It looks like we've got about 9 or 10 volcanoes spewing ash. Very, very active. Sometimes you get in a little closer. Yeah, that's a twofer right there. So that's 10. Those two are side by side. That's Duquesnoy and Ibu spewing ash. As you can see, the little ash clouds, the direction it's going right now out over the water. And then this one down here, Simaru, that's actually to the east of Jakarta. Got this one up in the southern end of Japan. That one's always going. No Russian ones firing. We do have this one, though, that's out in that general area, kind of the in between Russia and Alaska. That pops from time to time. Nothing up here in Iceland for a change. We've got the one Fuego in Guatemala that is cracking, and then all these down into Central America. So, again, very active. That's 10 volcanoes. That's up there on our record size. Now, get up to the misery map. If you're traveling today, just a heads up, anything out of Dallas right now, as you can see, all the weather, you're going to be probably delayed. And then, of course, that's a #1 delay, so that would make sense with the weather. And then, of course, New York's also getting some weather. The other big delay, Chicago, Atlanta, anything up this kind of corridor right here is going to be your biggest impacts for travel, all right? Over here to NOAA, we got nothing flying right now, which is really unusual. I guess their work is done. So let's get over and take a look at this on the NASA map. Again, I'm not seeing much other than this one looks to be flying around. That's 602 NA. We're going to take a closer look at that to see what it's up to. But notice right down here, this is going to be your HARP location. So it was running some stuff along the HARP area, and then it went up into this general area. That particular aircraft, as I showed you the other day, you can see that's what it looks like. And then altitude, 40,000 feet. So that's up there. But again, this has got one of those little electronic pods on it, probably working very closely with HARP as it runs out and does its deal. Don't know what it does, but fascinating nonetheless. Okay. But we talk about weather modification. We talk about stuff going on. Now, over the U.S. right now, if we just kind of back it up, this is where we've got the 4-ship headed northbound of KC-135s. That's going to be your air refuelers. Keep in mind, flashbang is still hasn't been seen since he punched out on COVID and went on vacation. He's been laying pretty low. But we do have a VIP inside of this. Notice it's a small VIP, which would indicate that's probably going to be Bob Marley doing something up here in Maryland. This is over the village, or the senior living center, as we call it, the brown zone. And then this is where he is now. And that date, if we look at the TFR for him, looks like it runs till the 24th. So that's midweek. We'll see where he goes from there, if he comes back to the White House or if he continues on. But anyway, let's get away from that dumpster fire. If we look at the weather, though, just a heads up, notice we got a lot of stuff going on, a lot of power outages happen in the slop here over Texas, but we'll take it. It is a beautiful thing. But one thing I did want to point out was, notice this watch area right here. We've got this one coming off. It is expected to go hot, and we'll continue to watch it. But this is the season. You got the super hot water temps that run right through this whole area. So if it gets into this general area, it's probably going to be a major hurricane. So we'll continue to watch it and see what happens. But as always, it does impact our flight stuff. So speaking of flight impacts, I don't know if you guys saw this or not, but we have not been watching this one fly because it crashed. And so this is the Airbus project. It was out there over Yuma, Arizona, the proving grounds. And it actually was just hours away from actually beating its longest record. And then for some reason, it ottered into the ground. And so we don't know why. They're actually investigating it. But 64 days, that's pretty impressive. But we'll continue to follow up on it and see if they ever figure out what happened. Very unusual. Given that it's a solar aircraft, there's really nothing to take away the power. So for it to go down like that was, I think, suspect. But all right, now let's talk about some of the famine going on out there right now. We've got actually some areas that are getting heavily hit. We pay attention to that because as we talk about weather modification, you know, you've got droughts and all kinds of different things that impact this. But this one here is Tigray, and it says there's 2.6 million people, and that is in northern Ethiopia region, desperately need food aid. Let's watch and see if anybody comes to their rescue, because as you may know, I mean, we've got a lot of them. Somalia, just it's all over the place and it's rampant. So but you may notice even with Sri Lanka, nobody's really coming to their aid. They're on their own. And so I think we're starting to see this trend where as hunger and famine starts to hit these regions, basically there's no help, So anyway, kind of bad. Well, actually, really bad, actually, from a poverty perspective. So let's talk NOTAMs, notice to air missions. As I mentioned the other day, they have changed. Used to be airmen, but no longer because we can't call them airmen anymore. But let's get into what's going on. We've got a new box right here over this general area. I don't know what it is. Looks to be not even, it just says airspace closed. Not an exercise box, but we did see the R-135 running routes up here the other day. So I'm not really sure what's going on, but probably got some Russian ships out in this general area as well. Still have an exercise over Iceland. We get in and around England. My stuff seems to want to fade out as soon as I zoom in, but you can see we've got boxes on both sides of England. Lots of exercises going on. And then, of course, this whole region south of Turkey between there and Greece all the way over to Israel is just chock full of military exercise and operations. And then the U.S. has actually calmed down a little bit. It was pretty hot and heavy. It doesn't want to show for some reason. You can see these other boxes have since gone away. A lot of these in here are fire boxes. And then, of course, that is going to be flashbang. So I'll have to do a clear on the cache here and get it to rerun because it is definitely taking away all my NOTAMs. They just disappeared on me. Is that fun you have? All right, let's get over here to this side of it. We were looking the other day at China. We were looking at the Pacific Ocean and noticing that we had a ton of unspecified ships. These are mostly cargo and oil tankers, mostly cargo. But it is a very leading indicator that there is a problem here, okay? Anytime you see all of these parked, look at the amount, thousands upon thousands of ships. These are ships that are not moving any. Look at this as we go north. It just gets worse, right? So this is a pretty good indicator that, the Chinese economy is in the toilet. The U.S. economy is certainly going to be, because this is probably stuff that we used to get all the time and we don't get anymore because they've shut it all down. Now, if you go over to the headlines, one thing I do want to point out, notice that as this stuff tends to slow down relative to movement, it is going internal to China still, okay? That's the main flow in and out. This is Shanghai and all the way down to South China, Taiwan, obviously, our watch area. But notice the sea of Atlas Airs coming back and forth out of Asia. Now, some of these could be containing troops, which is very possible going into the region, but most of these are going to be moving freight via air. And that's because it's not coming over via cargo ships, so they're having to go to air mode to get critical stuff and pay dearly for it. Moving stuff via air freight versus slow boat from China is very, very expensive, and you will see that reflect in the price that you're paying for whatever item it is they're bringing, or items, okay? But pay attention to this one. China is preparing to go to war. We've seen this as you continue to watch it. We're hearing from other entrepreneurs and folks that own manufacturing capabilities within China that everything is being shifted over to support the military. So pay close attention to that. I don't think it's going to be hitting hot and heavy into the U.S. I think what they're focused on right now is probably going to be Taiwan. They're going to take Taiwan, and then, because they've already given the UN formal notice that they plan on making that move to the United Nations Security Council. But we'll continue to watch it. Of course, they're not going to broadcast if they're going to hit the U.S., but we have to watch that, keep our eye on it. And then again here too, China sends memos to citizens telling them to stockpile for war. We've seen this before. Notice the date on that, November 2021. And but you have to pay attention to that because this is them hedging, right? Remember, they did go on lockdown, and then we've watched a lot of this stuff transpire. So this is kind of an old headline, but it's just something we want to go back on, not lose sight that they have been preparing for this for quite some time, okay? All right, let's go over here to Flashbang. Speaking of not a lot going on here. Out of town pool call. Of course, we know he is currently up in his neck of the woods here. and he will be until probably midweek, and then we'll see where he goes from there. But we'll see if he shows back up. We did get news today that Fauci is actually punching out, that he's going to resign. Thank you, Jesus. But couldn't happen soon enough. Damage has already been done, but hopefully he'll get prosecuted for some of the stuff that he's been doing. So now let's talk about IRS. We talked about the 87,000 new jobs that are pushed out there, and the fact that in this latest bill, there's $124 billion. Now, note that number because this becomes very important. If you look at the IRS and you look at what they spent over the last, say, 4 years from 2015 to 2019, total spending was only $8.7 million. That is a drop in the bucket. But let's see what items they bought, because this is actually from the General Accounting Office as a roll-up, just to show you. Ammunition, $3.5 million worth of ammo. Ballistic shields, right? Those are the shields that they use for crowd control. Armor, $3 million in armor. Quick reaction capability equipment. I don't really know what that is exactly. I have an idea, but I'm not going to say it. Notice they got Glocks, Model 19s. So those are going to be kind of your concealed carry size. That's not your large. And then surveillance vans, $855,000 in surveillance vans. What are they doing? Absolutely crazy. Night vision. So, all right, you guys got nods. All right, that's cool. We keep it even here. And then you've got military marine knocks, and then some hand wands. Those are going to be your billy clubs or your little sticks that probably telescope back and forth. So it's good to see that we're all buying the same things. This is going to be really interesting if it does go hot. There ain't no doubt about it. But I want to point out that over the funding period from 06 to 19, they only spent $19 million. All right. Now, remember, the president just earmarked $124 billion to these guys. Yeah, 120, not 1 billion, $124 billion. That is, they've only spent 19 million, which of course they were buying military kind of combat stuff. Look at this. They own 4,600 guns, stockpiled 5 million rounds of ammunition. That was back as of January 2019. 621 shotguns, 539 long barrel rifles. So, and then of course, which could be anything, sniper, DMRs, could be a lot of different things. And then submachine guns. That's kind of wild. Nonetheless, it's a data point, because if you think that they were already kind of a threat in terms of being armed and militarized, they just added 87,000, or they're going to add 87,000 more employees over the course of 10 years and pump $124 billion into that effort. That is staggering. And it makes previous spends look like a drop in the bucket, right? All right, let's get over here to the live map in Ukraine. As you can see, again, very slow moving. If the Russians are going to take this, they are definitely taking their sweet time in doing so. Again, I think once Kiev falls and Zelensky's out, then the whole state will fall. But in the meantime, we just kind of keep an eye on it. Notice these red dots up here are going to be Russian troop movements. We will also note that they just pushed in. Notice this area right up here that's near Kaliningrad. They just put a whole bunch of hypersonic missile batteries in, as well as aircraft fighters up into this region. So they have kind of expanded. And of course, remember this two area right here, these areas, Estonia, Latvia, Lithuania, is where a lot of our recon is going right now. So they definitely have eyes on something in this general area. And remember too, this is Belarus. Sorry, let me back up a little bit this is Belarus, this is Russia. Belarus right here. So you can see they are definitely kind of branching out. They've kind of been moving into this general area. We've been watching the recon over that area as well. And of course the Black Sea, as always, where everything is flowing. Now, I don't know how real this one is. The Warzone is pretty solid at putting together some really good factual articles, but this one here, I don't know. Dogfight over Ukraine shows the air war is still very much being fought. I don't know how accurate that is, I'll be honest with you. These things that they're showing are very high altitude. That could have just been Soviet stuff. Nobody really ever saw this aircraft. This is just a stock image that came out from a Ukrainian standpoint. But I don't know. I think that Russia has got heavy control over the Ukraine, and we see that here. Well, of course, we don't because my NOTAMs don't want to pull up right now, but nonetheless, they're dominating this airspace, and so they've got a lot of S-300s and a lot of S-400s in the region that will take out fighters and jets and anything that actually breaches the border. So to think that Ukraine is actually launching an air campaign out of Ukraine, I find that a bit of a stretch. But nonetheless, these guys are pretty accurate, and we'll give them the benefit of the doubt. Now, here's the other one too. U.S. has deployed B-52 bombers into the UK. Well, we see that. We were just looking at one of them over Europe. That always gets people's attention because it's an old bird. That thing is, they started manufacturing them back, I think, in the late 40s, and they've been around. Heavy duty. Of course, they modify the engines. What you're looking at there looks to be a G model. A D model. They haven't flown those since Vietnam, but that's looks like a G model. Due to the engines. Now the new ones, actually the H models, have the bigger turbofans on there, but nonetheless, these definitely have the ability to carry nukes and many other things. So, all right, let's get over to the troop movement, see what's been going on. It is Monday, so that means we have to go in and look at what happened over the weekend. Notice we do have an Omni that was rolling up to Indianapolis. We do have an Eastern airline coming in from Portsmouth. Those are probably bringing in troops as they process them, and then this one going to Fort Worth. They do a final process out of Alliance, and then off they go across the drink. Don't see anything on the schedule. Let's get over here to arrivals and departures. So, yeah, you can see over the weekend, Saturday all the way to today, very active. When you look at the board and you see these commercial charters, those are going to be troop movements, okay? And so we get over to the departures and expand into that too. Notice many, they pretty much match it, plane for plane, right? All right, over here to Ramstein, the board has been filling up and going down, Got a lot of camber flights inbound. These are flights coming in, troops. That's going to be Baltimore, Washington, and then this Air Transport International come out of Portsmouth. And then over here, camber flight. That one's airborne. It looks to be, well, we'll look and see where that thing ends up going. And then this one here, Hunter Army Airfield, right? We've watched flights come in and out of that place pretty regularly too. All right. So, again, these can be your Omni flights. Notice the shift, right? We just read about the headlines that China is pretty much preparing to go to war. They've notified the UN, but notice that the U.S. flights now seem to be focused over here on this side of the house, at least for this week. Looks like we got quite a bit. Notice this one here. It actually went to Taiwan, back here to Fort Worth Alliance, all right? So we definitely are putting troops on ground in Taiwan and in Japan, pretty heavy duty movements. So we'll continue to watch those and watch them stack. So that just is a good indicator. One thing, if you just kind of step back, recognize that there is nobody on the planet right now stepping down. Everybody seems to be just adding to the mix from a war footing perspective. So troops are we're actually beefing up on troops, beefing up on assets, spending a lot of money, and moving people all around the globe right now. So, and every other country out there is doing the same thing. So it looks like U.S., China, Russia, of course, all of the NATO alliances and things we've got going on over there. Everybody is on the uptick and adding to what they already have. So it's definitely just a matter of time before this all goes hot. But we'll continue to watch it. Praying it doesn't happen this year. I'll be honest with you, because I do have a trip to Israel later this year, and I'd love to actually make it there. So, but check it out. We've got flights coming in and out. Looks like that's Doha, I think. Let me just double check. But no, Bahrain, not Doha. That's Bahrain. And then we've got one looks to be headed inbound to that region, and then this one leaving, headed back to the U.S. So that one's just getting airborne. All right. And the Ruskies, very, very light. Notice they've got this one coming in to this general region up here in Detroit. Don't know what they're up to, but nonetheless, they are headed that direction. And then we've got these others here over Middle East and Europe. All right. Actually, that looks like it was down in Cyprus. Okay. Now that one right there, I do believe is going to be, yeah, that's going to be your R-135. doing routes over the Black Sea. Like I said, their aircraft, they'll actually bundle their stuff. So it could be troop movement, could be reconnaissance. Kind of hard to tell unless you know what they're doing. But this one you could see running that route back and forth, looking out over here. This is Crimea. This is Turkey. Remember, there is a bubble that comes right around here from a TFR perspective, or at least a NOTAM, that they're not penetrating across, right? They're probably right up on the edge of it, but all right, the Ruskies got nothing in the air. Very, very quiet from them today. And then let's get into the domestic side of the house. This is going to be your Gestapo. Notice they're rolling out of Fort Collins or Loveland, Colorado, headed back east. So it looks like they just took a team out here today, or early this morning and yesterday in this general region. So if you're in that area, just a heads up, you got the feds that just landed and dropped the team off, and it looked like they are, we'll watch them come back out on Friday. All right. And then let's get over here to our immigrant machine. Just to point out, notice we got a couple. That's Alexandria headed into Louisiana. That's going to be that 72-hour holding facility. And everything else seems to be border related. All right. El Paso, Laredo. Notice that 2 of those flights are actually going to that 72-hour holding facility. That's promising. And then this one headed down to Guatemala. And then this one headed to Havana, Cuba. All right. Now, a minute ago, I was actually tracking, and they have dropped offline since, but this is World Airways. Now, World Airways, we know they work with the Bureau of Prisons, the Air Marshals. We've seen them moving several times. Actually caught video of them actually moving, as well as immigrants. So, but this morning, we actually had them taking off. They were Cuba to Miami, and then we had a flight from JFK and Miami. So I don't know if they took some folks up there to JFK. That could be the Florida governor playing the same stuff that Abbott's doing, maybe flying some folks up there and dropping them off, giving them a new place to live. And then this one here is another one we got to just pay attention to. Don't have confirmation on it yet, but it looks like they are potentially trying to use Amtrak to get illegals across the border. So these folks are like slime. You just can't get your hands around everything they're doing because they have so many pieces going, and so you just never know. But we'll continue to watch it and see if there's any traction on this. But as always, it looks like there is very little resistance in them getting across the border from this administration. Okay, well, listen, that's going to do it today for our SITREP. Again, I don't see any indication of anybody around the planet stepping down or at least scaling back in terms of their war footing. They seem to just keep pushing all the chips onto the board, and everybody seems to be all in. So it's just a matter of time. Once it goes hot, it's going to be global. There's no doubt about it. Everybody and their brother will be engaged in this. So, all right, listen, that's going to be it. So first off, let's go, Brandon, as always. And for everybody else, I will see you on Wednesday. Remember, no Q&A today in the over on the chat. And so keep that powder dry, stay frosty, and we'll see you on Wednesday. God bless. Monkey out. Check out the latest gear and products at monkeywerxus.com.